offer themselves for re-election. 4, in accordance with the provisions of Section 769 of the Companies Act 2015, the following directors being members of the Board Audit Committee be elected to continue to serve as members of the said committee. 1, Mrs. Rose Imani. 2, Mr. Patrick K. Githendo. 3, Mr. Lawrence Karisa. 4, Mr. Mwambia Wanyambura. 5, to approve the remuneration of the directors for the year ended 31st December 2017 and to authorize the board to fix the remuneration of directors. 6, to reappoint Ernst & Young, auditors of the company, having expressed their willingness to continue in office, and to authorize the directors to fix their remuneration. 7, transact any other business which may be properly transacted at an annual general meeting. Dated at Nairobi this 26th day of April 2018, by order of the board, signed by Samuel M. Kibugi, the company secretary. Note, every member entitled to attend and vote at this meeting is entitled to appoint a proxy to attend and vote on his behalf, and the proxy need not be a member of the company. A form of proxy can be downloaded from the company's website, www.copbank.co.ke, and should be delivered or sent to the share registrar, first floor, CIC Plaza 2, Upper Hill, or to any cooperative bank branch, PO Box 48231 100 Nairobi, so as to be received not later than 23rd May 2018. That is 48 hours before the meeting. The annual general meeting, the annual report and financial statements of the company and this notice are available on our website, www.copbank.co.ke, and an abridged version of the financial statements has been published on the daily newspapers. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, our company secretary. I now call upon the company secretary to confirm whether we have a quorum and proxies received. Mr. Company Secretary.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Quorum being 4 present under Article 58, we have sufficient quorum to convene the meeting. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. A quorum being present, I declare the meeting to be properly convened and duly constituted, and we shall now proceed with the meeting. I'll be the one starting the meeting by giving my brief remarks, which I will now continue to read. Directors of the Cooperative Bank Group, our dear shareholders, ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the Board of Directors of the Cooperative Bank Group, and on my own behalf, I am delighted to welcome you all to our 10th annual general meeting. I am delighted to advise that the bank sustains its strong performance record and posted a remarkable profit before tax of Kenya shillings 16.4 billion for the year ended 31st December 2017. This great achievement was attained despite a very challenging economic and political environment in the year, where the country experienced a long electioneering period, the full cycle effect of the interest rate caps, which came into force in September 2016, and drought experienced in various parts of the country. You will be pleased to note that this strong performance was despite a loss of almost Kenya shillings 603 million registered in our South Sudan operations due to the political crisis in the economy and hyperinflation in that country. The year 2017 was a year characterized by a tough economic environment, but our strategic focus provided the required resilience. With the increased momentum in the Soaring Eagle transformation agenda, revamped ICT infrastructure, and the strategy set for competing in a changed environment, the group will continue scaling new heights. Arising out of this performance, the Board of Directors of the bank are recommending to this annual general meeting the payment of a dividend of 80 cents per share, subject to regulatory approvals. This is also in line with the bank's capital retention strategy for further funding the growth of the bank. I highly recommend the board of directors and the management of the bank under the leadership of Dr. Gideon Muriuki for this excellent and incredible performance. Let me most sincerely thank the board of directors and you, the shareholders, for this great responsibility you have bestowed on me as the chairman of the Cooperative Bank of Kenya Limited. We deeply honor my predecessor, Mr. Stanley Muchiri, and the great role he played as a director of the bank for over 30 years, even as we seek to scale to greater heights, indeed as the Kingdom Bank, through which God will continue to bless the people of Kenya. I also thank you most sincerely for your continued support and patronage of the bank. As is now our usual practice, considering that this is the only occasion that we get to meet all you, our shareholders, I will call upon the Group Managing Director and CEO, Dr. Muriuki, to take this opportunity to give highlights on bank's activities and then invite our auditors to present the financial report for the year ended that 1st December 2017. Mr. MD.
The chairman of the board of directors, Mr. John Morogo, the vice chairman, Mr. Macraud Malonza, who is also the chairman of the 65% shareholder of this bank, Corp Holding Cooperative Society, the board of directors, our dear shareholders this morning, good morning. Bwana asifiwe sana. God is good. Thank you very much for honoring our invitation this morning. We are delighted. If we came and the chairman had sent the notice for the meeting and we came this morning and you didn't come, we honor you and thank you so much for taking time to be with us this morning. As the chairman has said, this is a moment we have, and this is the only moment possibly we as management have to share with you some of the things that we are doing in the bank, other than the quarterly results that we release on the bank and the media briefings that we do from time to time, every 3 months. And so give me a few minutes just to share some of the things that have happened in the bank, particularly in the last 1 year, even as we get to the agenda of the business. Chairman, we thank God most sincerely for enabling us to register strong performance, record and posted a remarkable profit before tax, as the chairman has said, of 16.4 billion for the year ended 31st December 2017. This great achievement, as the chairman has said, was attained despite a very challenging economic and political environment in the year, wherein the country experienced a long electioneering period. You will recall, shareholders, we had 2 elections last year, the full cycle effect of interest rate caps. Interest rate caps, Mr. Chairman, came into effect in September 2016. And so 2017 is the year that we had the full impact of the interest rate caps. And you also remember that last year, there are areas of this nation that experienced some drought. In addition, we know the challenges that have been there in South Sudan. And though South Sudan had made a profit in SSP terms, they had made a profit of 192 million in SSP terms, which was higher than what they had made the previous year of 82 SSP, due to hyperinflation and accounting for hyperinflation, as the auditors would tell us, we had a translation loss of 603 million. And so the performance that we had of 16.4 billion, if we didn't have that translation loss of 600 million from South Sudan, would have been talking of a profit of at least 17 billion last year. The chairman, is good to remind the directors that the story of the bank, the story of this bank is a unique testimony of God's faithfulness. It is indeed nothing short of a miracle that a bank that was on the brink of collapse, we had a huge loss, if you remember, in 2.3 billion in 2001. Around then, we had only 100,000 customers. We had just around 25 branches, those who can remember, and we had only an asset base of around 23 billion in 2001. It talks of God's faithfulness that institution is now one of the largest banking groups in the region. Today, Mr. Chairman, with the assets of almost 400 billion, moving from 23 billion, net loans and advances of 254 billion. We have today over 7.2 million account holders. We have moved from 100,000 customers to over 7.2 million account holders. Today we have 152 branches, and we have representation almost in every corner of this nation. We have over 8,000 COP kwa jirani agents, and today as we speak, we have over 70 billion, as you see from the balance sheet of shareholders' funds. Indeed, Chairman, it has been a tremendous transformation journey over the years, and I must highly commend you, the Chairman, and the board, and you, the shareholders here today, for your steadfast support of your bank over the years. Turning to 2017, I would want to highlight a couple of things that has happened. We have continued to drive a universal banking model. When we started earlier on in 2001, we were largely a sectorial bank, a bank that was largely banking only the cooperative movement. But we know we have driven a model of inclusivity, universal banking model, so that we are not only are we in cooperatives, which is the heart of the bank in terms of ownership, we are also in the retail sector, corporate and institutional banking. We also have advisory through COP consultants and insurance agency, fund management. We do other COP Trust Investment Services, stock broker in some of these places that we have gone to, and convince them to do mobile banking with the bank before they are able to see a physical branch in that locality. And so we are still doing physical expansion of branches, of course, moderated, not like we were doing before, but leveraging more on digital technology. And so in 2017, Mr. Chairman, we opened a branch in Retain, we opened a branch at Two Rivers Mall, and we opened a branch at the airport, JKIA. In 2018, Mr. Chairman, you'll be pleased to know that we have already opened 4 branches. We have opened a branch in the Kilimani area. We felt we didn't have presence in that area. Mr. Chairman, we have opened a branch in Emari, on the way to Mombasa. We needed presence in that area. Thika became big, Mr. Chairman, and the main branch in Thika became too much business, and we felt there was a room for another branch in Thika, and so we opened this year Thika Makongeni. We have 2 branches in Thika, and Mr. Chairman, we also opened a branch in Kangema. We have the following branches coming up in the course of the year. We expect possibly by next week to open Utawala branch. That area has really come up. We are already putting up a branch in Kapenguria. We got a premises there from Bishop Kewasi's, and the Anglican gave us a premises in Kapenguria. We're opening a branch there in Kapenguria to take care of West Pokot, and we're opening a branch in Chogoria, hopefully by November. It's under construction. Mr. Chairman, the other area that I want to highlight is that we have invested a lot as a bank on the area of agency banking because we have realized that they are more convenient. Agents are where you are. And like I said earlier, Mr. Chairman, today we have over 10,000 approved agents. And I think the point I want to highlight here is that the COP kwa jirani agents literally have become banks. They are able to offer all the major services. They are able to do cash withdrawals. You're able to put deposit money in your account at the cash deposits, bill payments, counter payments, fraud top-up, NHIF payments. You're able to do balance inquiry, fast transfer, and even KRA payments. And that's why, as I said earlier, that model of agency banking has really helped us as a bank to lower our overall operating base. ATMs have grown. Today we have over 585 ATMs all over the country, and we have seen that we're able to move over 20 billion of cash through the ATMs every month. We have also invested in internet banking, very big now. In the year 2017, customers on the channel, we were able to transact over 1 million, almost 2 million transactions on internet banking in the year 2017, which was a 43% growth over the previous year. We have also invested in diaspora banking. I think we have seen that diaspora inflows have really gone up. You saw first quarter, Mr. Chairman, this year, with statistics from Central Bank of Kenya, we saw that the country received 64.5 billion from abroad in the first quarter. What are we saying? We are saying diaspora remittances. Diaspora remittances is the money sent by Kenyans who are out there working overseas, has now become the largest foreign exchange earner for this nation. And so CoBank was the first bank in the industry to set up a diaspora center. If you go to our Copper House branch, we have an area, a branch only for diaspora clients. And I think this has helped us, and the team there is doing a very good job, Mr. Chairman, in terms of penetrating the sector. Mr. Chairman, this year and last year, we have had a very critical focus on SME. SME is the micro and the small businesses. They are the backbone of the Kenyan economy. And it's estimated that SMEs contribute over 30% of the GDP. And growth and investment in this sector is a key pillar in the Vision 2030 blueprint. And it's estimated that 87% of the jobs in the country in 2017 are from this segment. So a sector that has over 90% of the employment potential, we have gone a big way. And so, Mr. Chairman, we have a partnership with International Finance Corporation, who have also given us funds, and we are deepening our service offering to the SME. This has been a very critical area that we are going through, and indeed we have seen a lot of growth and a lot of deposits coming out of this, and we thank God for it. Mr. Chairman, allow me to take a few minutes on the cooperative movement. Cooperative movement is the one that started this bank. Cooperative movement is one that has given us a name that we are very proud of, being called Cooperative Bank. And so, especially the cooperative movement, not only is it a special customer segment for us, but it is also the 65% shareholding. We come to this general meeting actually last month, coming from the general meeting of COP holding cooperative societies. So the COP holding cooperative society, the 65% shareholder. And so we as a bank, even as we are doing our business, we have a critical mandate to make sure that we remain relevant to the cooperative movement. In the context of when the shareholders came together in 1965 to start a cooperative bank, there are special considerations, there are special needs that they had when they were starting this bank. And number one was to make sure they have an institution that gives them affordable financial services. And so we still have we have a very strong division for cooperatives banking division, and under that we have Sacco banking department, where we have been really doing a lot of support. We are doing a lot of work in agribusiness. 2 weeks back, you may have noted in the media, for instance, on agribusiness, we were in Meru with Governor Kiraito talking about value addition. And we have come up with a pilot, for instance, in Meru, where we are financing Meru County Mill, a mill operated by the county government and owned by the cooperative movement in Meru, to be able to bring coffee together from the region and they sell together, economies of scale. And so we hope that the program that we did in Meru, or we have done in Meru, and by last week, farmers are already getting the payment from the coffee deliveries. Mr. Chairman, we are hoping we'll be able to replicate this model in other coffee regions. We also have a transport, housing, and investment cooperatives. We have now over 7,000 cooperatives, particularly in housing. This will be very critical, and the transport, because this is part of one of the key pillars of His Excellency the President, the housing. We also have COP consultants and insurance, COP consultancy. Mr. Chairman, when this bank did very well over the years, we challenged ourselves on how can we possibly give back to the cooperative movement. And there are 2 ways we do that. The first one we do that, Mr. Chairman, is through capacity building. We came up with a capacity building subsidiary company that is headed by a gentleman called Nicholas Kamonye. And we have over 20 consultants, Mr. Chairman, who on a full-time basis are out there in the cooperative movement doing a lot of consultancy work. Mr. Chairman, I'm pleased to tell our shareholders here today that since inception, COP Consultancy, Mr. Chairman, has done over 1,000 consultancy mandates in the cooperative movement. They have been in 1,000 cooperative societies giving let's appreciate the team here. It's good to appreciate them. Over 1,000 services out there in terms of development of growth strategies, doing strategic plans for cooperatives, improving sustainability of cooperatives, enhancement of technology capabilities for cooperatives, staff and board capacities, growth of small cooperatives, and even cooperative training. Mr. Chairman, shareholders will be able to know that, like in 2017, we trained over 8,000 cooperative leaders from cooperative societies in the grassroots. They came and we were able to do training for them at the national level. Why are we doing this? We are doing this because When we have strong cooperatives at the grassroots, we have a strong bank. Why? They are our customers and they are our shareholders. Mr. Chairman, I just allow me to mention briefly about the 5-year strategic corporate plan. The board has a 5-year strategic corporate plan, 2015-2019, and it is underpinned by the following 15 key strategic objectives that will guide the implementation of this plan. We want to increase shareholder value to you shareholders and be the dominant bank in Kenya and the region, to be the leading provider of financial services to the corporate movement in Kenya, as I've explained, and to maintain that at least 95% of the assets and the business of the cooperative movement is handled by this bank. To enhance our overall customer experience by maintaining a high level of customer satisfaction and brand visibility, to optimize the bank's huge investment in delivery channels, successful implementation of a customer-centric model, successful implementation of our shared services center. You are aware 2 years from 2014, with support of McKinsey, we were able to look for very many services that we were offering at the branch, and we were able to take those to a back office, and we created a shared services center headed by Sam Bilech as the chief operating officer, and that has really helped us to, in terms of efficiency at the branches. Today, if you go to a core bank branch, the average time we are now taking is 10 minutes. You go to a branch now, you take a queue. Half of the branch is actually a sitting area that was never there before, and in 10 minutes you're out of the branch and you're being served. There has been an incredible turnaround in the context of the service that we are giving. To entrench a more robust risk management framework, to improve on overall cost efficiency within the group. Mr. Chairman, last year was very good. We were able to reduce our cost structure. One of the ratios of measuring cost effectiveness is cost-income ratio. Our ratio the previous year in 2016 was 59%, and we reduced our cost ratio from 59% to 52%. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, we want to be the employer of choice, attracting and retaining the most competent personnel, well rewarded, and I think we have invested a lot in this area in terms of people management, in terms of a performance-based reward structure. The people will get a salary increase, people will get promotion, people will get a bonus strictly tied to your performance target that you signed that year, and the appraisal that you go through at the end of every year. Number 12, to uphold the bank's competitiveness in terms of sourcing strategy. Number 13, to drive a regional expansion strategy. I need to take a minute on this. We went to South Sudan, but we deliberately, I think, wanted to see how the market is unfolding. In terms of our 5-year strategic plan, we have planned to be in Ethiopia, to be Rwanda, to be Uganda, and in Tanzania. But with the interest rate caps and the tough environment that we had last year, I think we thought it was good to internalize the changes that were coming, and then possibly from this year, we see how to go back to that. And so for now, we are still in South Sudan, and we are still looking for opportunities, but we are not overly aggressive on this one because we want to see how the regional economy is also coming up. And 15, to ensure the bank operates as a responsible corporate citizen and by investing in the communities. So from 2014, Mr. Chairman, we brought McKinsey on board in what we've been calling the Swahili Eagle transformation, and we've gone through an incredible transformation as a group. And what were the pillars of the transformation that we've gone through was, one was customer experience and branch transformation, like I have said. And today, as I said, 87% of our transactions now are on alternative channels. And our queue time has reduced to under 10 minutes in the branches. The other one is sales force effectiveness as far as our market and the various market segments are concerned. And the key thing to highlight, Mr. Chairman, is out of that, in our 2017 performance, like you'll see, our foreign exchange earnings grew by 24%, and the customer base grew by 13% as a factor of this. I've talked about the shared services and digitization. We have a very big investment now in terms of digitization. We have a very big investment in terms of the computerization of the bank and B2B integration. I'll give you one example which we can all identify with. When Governor Sonko came to Nairobi, he called us as a bank and he said, I have a challenge. I have a challenge because we receive money as county government, and some of the money we are not entirely sure whether it is banked in totality. And he challenged us as a bank and told us, is there a way as core bank you can collect all the money payable to Nairobi County government in your branches? Because the tellers at the county government would receive the money for the county government, and then they would come to bank in the bank. We have done what we call a B2B integration. We have done this for other 37 businesses, but for Nairobi County today, nobody pays the county government for any service. All the services, all the rates and fees that you need to pay to Nairobi County government, you actually go to a core bank branch, you go to a teller of core bank, and you tell the teller, I want to pay for my rates, I want to pay for my water, I want to pay for whatever service. And that payment is immediately you are paying the teller at core bank, the system at the county government is updated immediately. And so that, you can imagine what that has meant, and I know the leadership of Nairobi County government and the governor has been in the media in the recent past and in the past talking about the amount of efficiency that has given him in terms of the amount of money he's been collecting. NPL management and credit process, staff productivity, cost management and efficiency. I'm just highlighting some of the key pillars of what we've been doing with McKinsey. Another key pillar is championing social empowerment. And I've said that COP consultancy has been out there, particularly doing the consultancy mandates. That has been mouthful. We have worked with KCC, Kenya Cooperative Coffee Exporters, was started by COP Holding, our strategic investor, in terms of, like I said earlier, looking at the case study in Meru of supporting our farmers, our coffee farmers, to get better proceeds out of their coffee. And so we have been supporting Kenya Cooperative Coffee Exporters, headed by Mrs. Murumba, and the team there that are doing a very good job. We are also aware about our investment in school fees, in terms of bursary program. Mr. Chairman, it's good today that over 6,000 needy, bright kids all over the country have been supported. 6,000 needy and bright kids have been supported through the Cobank Foundation in terms of education scholarships. And we have other partnerships. We have very closely partnered with the First Lady, Her Excellency the First Lady Beyond Zero campaign. Under that campaign, Cobank donated over three mobile clinics came from Cobank under that initiative. The Kenyatta National Hospital Child Ward, we have been part of that support. We are the sponsors of the Kenya Defense Forces Games sponsorship. We support Kenya Diabetes Management. We support National Police Service Athletics, National Police Service Athletics, and many other CSR activities that we have had. Mr. Chairman, I think we have been, the work we have done as a bank has been honored. And you saw earlier this year that within the banking industry, we got the beginning of this year, we got the overall winner. We were the overall winner of the Kenya Bankers Association Catalyst Awards 2017. Within the banking industry, we got the top award. 2 weeks back, if you saw from the media, from the Africa Banking Awards 2017, we also commended, particularly we got the best bank in retail banking in Kenya and best bank in SME banking. Mr. Chairman, I don't want to tire the shareholders this morning. And in conclusion, I want to say the bank will continue to show resilience in the balance sheet and profitability growth. The political environment has stabilized I think the handshake and the things that have been happening have been good and is expected to have a positive impact on the economic environment. We are all happy with the positive environment that has been created by our government. And we believe the bank is well positioned to take the opportunity that will arise as the government continues to carry out Vision 2030 projects in infrastructure, ICT, energy, generation, and the others. With the increased momentum in the Soalingo transformation agenda, Mr. Chairman, the group will continue to scale new heights. And maybe if you have a copy of your newspaper, I'm sure you have seen our first quarter results. I mean, it's a commendable performance, Chairman, and I commend you that for first quarter this year, and the numbers are there, I think page 7 of the Nation and page 9 of the Standard, Mr. Chairman, the bank has been able to report a profit before tax of 4.9 billion for the first quarter. And so we are optimistic that that growth, and all things equal, we have given ourselves a stretched target that we'll be able to do much, much better this year. Mr. Chairman, I want to say the bank supports fully the policy direction shown by the government to remove interest rate capping. I think it was long overdue, and the government has appreciated that with 1% growth rate in credit from one-time high of 20%, there is no money in circulation. And we support fully the announcements by government to remove interest rate capping. and we really appreciate that. In closing, Mr. Chairman, the remarkable performance of the bank's profit before tax of 16.4 billion and even the 4.9 billion now in the first quarter would not have been possible without your support and the exemplary support we have received from you, the shareholders. And again, we thank you very, very, very much for coming this morning. The Board of Directors, as noted by the Chairman, has proposed for your approval a dividend payment of 80 cents per share. And this, again, is in line with the bank's policy of progressively capitalizing the bank through profit retention. Let me explain that. At times, we find institutions being caught in the trap of paying a very big dividend, and the following year, you go to your shareholders looking for additional capital. Dear shareholders, from 2008, when we listed the bank's shares, we've been able to grow our capital base to over 70 billion by just profit retention. And so we haven't had to come to you to tell you, we pay you 2 shillings, but we come back the following year and tell you, give us 1 shilling back as capital. We have been able to retain most of these profits, and the bank has been able to grow to the big bank it is today due to retaining the profits. And that's why the board has had that strategy of saying, let's not be over generous on dividends, but let's pay out about 30% of our profits, retain 70%, so that we are able to generate a good base for bank growth. Because that money that we retain in the balance sheet belongs to who? Belongs to shareholders. And from time to time, the board is able to meet and say, can we give a bonus issue to you, the shareholders? What are they giving a bonus issue out of? They are giving a bonus issue out of the revenues they have retained over the years. And I think that happened last year. You got a bonus last year. And so we will continue with that strategy. And so, Mr. Chairman, I would really want to thank you, Chairman, Mr. John Morogo, the Vice Chairman, Mr. Macraud Malonza, who is also the Chairman, as I said earlier, of Corp Holding Cooperative Society, that is our strategic investor with a 65% shareholding in the bank, and the Board of Directors for this excellent leadership that has provided us as management to be able to do what we have done. And also let me thank my colleagues, the staff in the bank, without whom, Lord, this would not have been possible. Thank you very much that you've been there for us. Again, shareholders, we cannot thank you enough, because not only are you our shareholders, you're our customers, and more so thank you so much for honoring our invitation and being here with us here this morning. And so, Mr. Chairman, with your permission, I now want to ask our auditors, Ernst & Young, supported by our director, Group Director, Finance and Strategy, Mr. Patrick Nyaga, Mr. Chairman, to take us through the 2017 financials. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Good morning, shareholders. Good morning, directors and management. I'm representing Ernst & Young, and before you shareholders, you've got a booklet and integrated reporting in Corp Bank. I'll just take you to the content. If you look at the content on page 3, from page 5 all the way to page 93 is other information. The financial statements as per the Companies Act and the IFRS are from page 61, are from page 95 up to page 192. The last page is on other corporate information. Shareholders, I'm going to give some high-level highlights on the financial statements. And if you could turn over to page 107. On page 107 is the consolidated statement of financial position, which is the balance sheet. And I'll just make a few highlights. If you look at the asset base during the year for the group, grew from 3.352 billion to 387 billion. That's an increase of 35 billion, which is equivalent to 10%. If you look at the equity grew from 60.6 billion to 6.9.8 billion, which is a growth of 15%. If you look at the liability side, the liabilities grew from 291 billion to 317 billion, an increase of 9%, which is 26 billion. If you look at the asset base of the company, the growth is attributable to, measure it to three items. One, if you look at the loan base, grew by 21 billion. Investment available for sale grew by close to 4 billion, and investment held to maturity grew by 7 billion. That supports the asset base of the bank. How is the asset base financed? The asset base was financed by deposits, which grew by 27.3 billion, a growth of 11%. The bank borrows from international organizations to fund the business, and the borrowing increased in the current year by 5.3 billion, which is 26.7 billion. If you turn over to page 13, if you turn page 108, which is the next page, consolidated income statement. If you look at how the bank and the group traded during the year, the interest income dropped by 1 billion, which is from that 7.3 billion to that 6.2 billion, which is a drop of 1 billion during the year. At the same time, the cost of funds, which is the interest expense, dropped by 0.4%, which is a 3% drop. Overall, the net margin increased from 5.9% to 66.1%, an improvement of roughly 0.2%. So although the interest dropped, the cost of funding dropped, overall net margin improved slightly, although it was like flat. If you look at how the business traded, if you look at the funding, which is the interest income, and unfunded business, which is other income, it was more or less at the same level. Funded income was 24 billion. It was the same, more or less the same figure in the previous years, 24.6 billion. Non-funded was 17.6 billion compared to 17.7 billion. Overall, giving total income of 41.6 billion compared to 42.2 billion. When you look at the operating expenses, there was an increase of 0.7 billion, that is from 24.6 billion in the previous year to 25.3 billion in the current year. That was an increase of 0.7%. If you look at the OPEX critically, you notice that the net impairment losses on loans and advances increased by 1 billion. If you offset the impact on net impairment on losses, actually the bank had a cost saving of roughly 0.4%, 0.4 billion during the year. So the operating expenses were efficiently managed during the year. Shareholders, if you turn on page 115, which is the consolidated cash flow. During the year, the group generated from its operations 6.1 billion Kenya shillings, and from financing, that is the borrowing, the bank generated 2.9 billion, giving an envelope of 9 billion to invest. And out of that, the bank invested 8.2, leaving a balance of 0.8 billion. And as a result, the bank had a cash position at the year of 17.5 billion compared to 16.9 billion, an improvement of 0.8 billion during the year. Shareholders, if you turn off to the next page, page 117, all the way to page 137, Those are the accounting policies which the bank has adopted in preparing the financial statements. If you turn to page 138 up to page 192, those are the notes to the financial statements which supports the numbers which are presented on the balance sheet, on the income statement, and in the cash flow. Shareholders, I'll turn now to our opinion, which is on page 103. Our opinion is from page 103 up to 106. And I'll just, at very high level, say a few words about the opinion. If you look at page 105, you'll see there is other information. We as auditors, we are required to read other information which accompanies the financial statement, but we do not express an opinion. We only express an opinion when, if other information is in agreement with what we have audited. Below that, the responsibility of directors has been spelled out, and the auditor's responsibility has also been identified. So in the conduct of our audit, we identify and assess risk of material misstatement. We obtain an understanding of the internal control. We evaluate the appropriateness of the accounting policies, and we conclude on the appropriateness of management use of going concern, and we evaluate the overall presentation of the financial statement, and we obtain sufficient information. The Companies Act also requires us to comment on whether the information given on the director's report is consistent with the information in the financial statements, and we also comment whether the director's remuneration report on page 99 has been properly prepared in accordance with the Companies Act. Shareholders, we report that we did not come across any exceptions regarding the compliance with these respective laws. I will turn on the key audit matters. As part of audit, key audit matters are those matters that, in our professional judgment, were of most significance in our audit of the consolidated and separate financial statement of the current period. These matters were addressed in the context of our audit of the consolidated and separate annual financial statement as a whole, and informing our opinion thereon, and we do not provide a separate opinion on these matters. For each matter below, our description of our audit procedures, audit and trust the matter is provided in the context. We have fulfilled the responsibility described in the auditor's responsibility for the audit of the financial statement section of our report, including in relation to these matters. Accordingly, I will just highlight the key audit matters which we noted in the course of our audit. The first matter was on credit risk and the impairment of loans and advances to the customers. Loans and advances constitute 66% of the total assets of the group in the statement of financial position as at 31st December 2017. Management performed an annual impairment assessment as required by the Central Bank of Kenya Prudential Guidelines and the International Accounting Standard 39. This process is subjective in nature due to the judgment involved in estimating the amount and timing of expected future cash flows of loans and advances. In addition to specific provisions against individual impaired loans and advances, the group also makes collective impairment provisions against the remainder of the loans and advances in relation to which specific provisions for impairment losses have not been made. Accordingly, the impairment assessment of loans and advances is considered to be a key audit matter due to the level of judgment and estimation involved. As auditors, we carried our procedures which you have listed below. We have not listed all the procedures, but these were the key procedures which were listed. Assessing key controls of approval, evaluating the methodologies used by the group in calculating collective assessed impairment, reviewing the inputs and management key assumptions, assessing the adequacy of impairment allowances, assessing whether the financial statement disclosures are appropriate. The second key audit matter is reporting hyperinflation economies by the Cooperative Bank of Uganda, as reported by the group MD. In 2016, the economy of South Sudan was considered to be hyperinflation in accordance with International Practice Task Force. Due to these considerations, the financial statements are supposed to be reinstated. And as a result of the impact this reinstatement will have on the financial statement, we consider this to be a key audit matter due to the effect to the group accounts. Statement as a result of adjusting Cooperative Bank of South Sudan to reflect the general change in purchasing power as it is disclosed in Note 32C. Shareholders, in the course of our audit, we assessed the accuracy of the restated financial statements for Cooperative Bank of South Sudan by reviewing the IS-29 workings. We assessed whether the group financial statement disclosure in Note 32C appropriately reflect the impact of hyperinflation reporting in Cooperative Bank of South Sudan. Shareholders, as your auditors, we are comfortable with the work we have done and what has been reported in the financial statement. In conclusion, we have audited the accompanying. I hereby read our opinion. We have audited the accompanying financial statements of the Cooperative Bank of Kenya, the bank and its subsidiaries, the group, set out on pages 107 to 193, which comprise the consolidated and separate statement of financial position at that 1st December 2017, and the consolidated and separate statement of profit or loss and other comprehensive income, consolidated and separate statement of changes in equity, and the consolidated and separate statement of cash flows for the year then ended. And notes to the consolidated and separate financial statement, including a summary of significant accounting policies. In our opinion, the accompanying consolidated and separate financial statement present fairly in all material respects the consolidated and separate financial position of the group and the bank as at that 1st December 2017, and its consolidated and separate financial performance and its consolidated and separate cash flows for the year then ended, in accordance with international financial reporting standards and the requirements of the Kenyan Companies Act 2015. That's our opinion. Thank you very much, shareholders, for giving us an opportunity to serve you in 2017. We also thank the management led by the group CEO, Dr. Gideon. And we thank the directors also for the support and the interactions we had in the process of the audit. And as the agenda indicates, Ernst & Young has expressed their willingness to continue to serve you as their auditors in 2018. Thank you, shareholders.
Thank you very much, our external auditors. Now, shareholders, after that presentation and the prior one by our group managing director, we are now open the session for comments, for questions, and we have various people to give you the microphone, so the floor is open. Thank you. I can see Shami.
Yes. Good.
Then
Yes.
after you, I can see the other gentleman here in green.
Thank you, Group Chairman, and welcome to Kingdom Bank. and also ego source. Thank you, Vice Chairman. You are also welcome to this King. Thank you, Dr. Gideon Muriuki, for your elaborate explanation, which has preempted all my questions. The book you have given us with the disclosures, I hope they are true and fair to the shareholders. Thank you for putting a bank in front of all other banks in discipline and in all other forms of operation and performance. Today, Mr. Chairman, we had so many meetings. We have been crashing, crashing. But I have settled here because I believe my interest is here. Even if it is going to buy more shares and also go to the insurance of CIC, which is your sister and brother, I will be able to do that as a shareholder. Because I believe there is future here. So long as, Gideon, you are there, and be there to stay. I hope the board will give you more powers and more money so that you are able to, if you can talk, your voice is heard. And today it is hard. Today it is hard. And because the first time we met, I blessed you. And that blessing is still there until the end of the world. Now, having said so, I would like now to urge you, your team, your board, your management, your staff, whom I have seen already disciplined for about 2 years. I've got many years experience with your staff. Everywhere we meet, they are always disciplined. And that discipline comes from you as our MD and the CEO. You are the only CEO who is open, who has talked more about the business, about what you are going to do next year from the year under review. Others do not give us those disclosures. But I don't want to name them because it is not in law. It is good you are leading us, and it's good you are taking us far. The journey is long, but let us walk together. If you look at page number 2 to 12, page number 2 to 12, something has touched me, and I would like to urge my fellow shareholders to give you a good clap from this side. Let us clap for the team, for our chairman and the team. The only question I could perhaps give you, because some of these shareholders want to go to other places, other companies, is only that the strategy of the management for 2018, just clarify that, and the ego source, only those two. Those are a bit operational, but they are in the accounts. But the accounts, the balance sheet, even if the profit went down, but it's still in billions. So the balance sheet is clean and is healthy. I cannot question that. That's good job. Congratulations. And I just leave like that. My dear distinguished shareholders, thank you very much. Asante sana. Thank you.
Let's continue with before our GMD response. There is a gentleman at the middle here with a green shirt. Stand up and give your comment.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name is Dr. Harry Osori, and I would like to commend you for the presentation and welcome you to the bank. I hope you thrive sitting on that chair because it's a good bank. Just a few points. We have one of the best CEOs in the business, so he has, with clarity, told us what the bank is doing and what it's going to do in the future. I have a question on South Sudan. You have reported in the last quarter, just a couple of days ago, I think, or yesterday, that the company is now making a profit. I think some 30-something million shillings compared to the loss of about the same amount last year in that quarter. The question I have for the CEO, do you think we're out of the woods now, that this company will be profitable going forward for the rest of the year? Because I know you're committed to South Sudan through the cooperative movement, and it's a good thing. So I'd like you to shed some light on that, whether you think in your forecasting we might be, stay positive, or the problems we have over there will continue to haunt us. Second, I'd like you, Mr. Chairman, or the CEO also to shed some light on, we have this new thing called International Financial Reporting Standards, which the auditors just talked about, and I don't think we're quite clear. I'm not a financial person, but basically it's the way I understand it is that, the way we provision in the bank for impairment of non-performing loans is changing from January this year. So that figure is just going to, if you look at what banks are reporting, the figures are just going to be going up. But my question, the way I understand it, is that these loans are collateralized. At what point do shareholders look at that number and say, well, it doesn't really make any sense because the bank is not really in a bad shape, even though that number is going up? If you could shed some light on what that really means for us, I would appreciate. The third point I have is that we are now in a very open system where we go to declare what we are paying the board and what we are paying our CEO. We are a tier 1 bank, right at the top. We're making a lot of money. We shouldn't be dragging our feet to report what we are paying our board and the CEO, because I'm not seeing those data. They're in the books, yes, but in the social media or whatever else they're supposed to be, those numbers are not there. Other quoted companies have reported what they are paying their CEOs. I know we compensated our CEO some 99 million shillings last year, and the board, from what I can see, was paid, or directors in general are paid 180 million, up from 163 million the year before. That's a 10% increase. And of course, we as shareholders, we're also looking to figure out, did the dividend go up by 10%, which it didn't, but I think the CEO has explained why it didn't go up. But anyway, the point I'm trying to make is that going forward, quoted companies, public companies, are required to give out this information for the benefit of shareholders to see whether the board we have and the CEO we have, are up to scratch. We do have a very strong bank. We have a very strong board, and I have no doubt about that. But what I'm saying is we should not be the last bank or the last company to be putting out this information, because others have put it out. I have the numbers from KCB, from other banks, and other quoted companies. So let's be upfront. We have nothing to hide. Let's just put it out there. The last thing that I want to talk about is we have some gender issues, because the board and also the top management, we have a positive women from what I see. And I think that's one of the things that going forward we need to see how we can regularize that issue. I believe there's, in the top management, there's only two females out of 17. The top management of the bank, there are only 2 females there. And the board, if you combine the board, the Sudan and the Kenyan business, I think it's 2 out of 15. let's not get into a discussion of, gender parity and what have you. It's been shown, studies have shown that if you put women there, they do better. Women understand money more than we do. They have so many roles to play. They are women, their wives, they're professionals, etc., etc. So I think that's something the board needs to look at going forward to increase the number of women on the board and also in the top management of the company. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I think before we still require maybe two more interventions so that the GMD can be able to respond to them properly. Yes, can we have the left there?
Thank you.
Can you please stand up so that then say your name?
Darogama. Thank you, Mr. My questions, jina langu ni Kerry Joroge. Swali langu ni kuhusu Co-op Bank House. Ukienda huko huduma za huko Co-op House, yani headquarter, unakuta kuna mashine hii ya ATM ya kuita watu yani wahudumiwe, lakini unakuta yule anayetaka huduma za Kingdom Securities anateswa, yani akiingia watu wengine wanaitwa wengi, lakini yeye anakaa masaa 2 masaa 3. Umefanya jambo ni kweli, lakini inahitajika zaidi ili asiwe akiteswa pengine masaa ya saa 7, 8. Watu wanaenda kununua sababu ya wengine ni vibarua kama mimi, asikaishwa masaa mingi. La muhimu zaidi ni kwamba hapo chini ukienda pale kwenye kona kuna hall kubwa imeachwa hapo, unakuta ni soja, askari. Ile nauliza kama yaweza tumiwa ile yule anataka kununua na kuuza hisa, yani huduma ziwekwe hapo kuliko kuwekwa na wengine akaishwa, yani awe anateswa. Asante sana.
Asante sana. I think that was a very amesema na Kiswahili tumeelewa. Any other intervention? Yes, down. Yes.
Thank you, the shareholders, the board, and management. My question is about these books. These books, the reports we are given out here, and I'm sure there are several of us who will want to go through these books before we come to the meeting. So I was suggesting that when you are noticing the papers, you also say that shareholders could pick these books from the branches so that we are informed and we are able to see what is here. And when we just come, you are given a book, you don't know what is there, and you are just told open page this, page that. Some of us are able to analyze these books. So I am suggesting or requesting that in our next general meeting, let us pick these books 2 weeks earlier from our branches. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. The last one. Yes, down.
Yes, good morning. My name is Stephen Kimani. I'm a young investor in a cooperative bank. Mine is not a complaint, but it is a suggestion. I want to thank the board of directors for the gifts that you have received today. Mine is not a complaint. It is a good job, well done. The gifts are super and well done.
Thank Thank you very much. I think I will now call upon our Group Managing Director to respond to those issues.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. First of all, let me honestly thank you, the shareholders, again, for your input. I think this is what makes us going. We want to be better every time. We want to improve ourselves. And we want to thank you very much for the comments. Are all very varied, and I'll go through them. Mr. Chami talked about welcome to the Kingdom Bank, and I think I want to appreciate that because in 2004, the Board of Directors declared that Core Bank shall be the Kingdom Bank in the context of we are a praying bank. And that's why we keep on saying that, you know, what has happened in Core Bank is nothing short of a miracle. It's because we are a praying bank. Every board meeting in Core Bank will start with prayer. Every staff meeting will start with prayer. And we have time as staff to come together and even directors just to pray for this institution. And indeed, looking back, we can only thank God for his faithfulness and for the way he has brought us. Because God has used ordinary people like you and I, indeed, to accomplish very big things in this institution. And thank you, Mr. Chami. I believe there are greater days ahead. Let me say that thank you for you appreciating the work that has been done. It has taken me and a very able team of staff who are here and those who are out there in the branches, over 4,000 staff. I think we have a very committed team that I can tell you. It has been teamwork, and we have a great board. Mr. Chairman, it's not in every board that we find even like smooth succession, like the way our former chairman, Mr. Muchiri, after working for 31 years as a chairman and having done a great job for this board, that Mr. Chairman, your board was able to meet, and we were able to do a smooth succession, and we're able now to be able to move on. I think it takes incredible leadership by an institution. And Chairman, I thank you, and I thank you, Mr. Chairman, even for that. And thank you for affirming that this is your bank. You are a respected shareholder out there. You are very active in the stock market. And I thank you that out of the 4 or 5 general meetings that were there today, you chose to be here. I thank you for that. We have walked with you this journey. And you've been my great shareholder over the years, and I appreciate that. You have asked a very good question about the 2018 strategy, Mr. Chami. We will continue on improving cost efficiencies. We'll continue on operating efficiencies, and we'll continue on enhancing the customer experience. Most of the things that we are doing 2018 is now a continuation of the things that we had set ourselves in 2017. In terms of giving the customer that good experience, in terms of giving the customer a good experience in terms of the service that we are giving, and that is continued to be the very critical focus for us. We started the Soaring Eagle with McKinsey in 2014, but McKinsey are not with us now. Why? Because we were able to build, as McKinsey were here, Mr. Chairman, in 2014, over the years, we were able to build internal capacity. And Mr. Chairman, we created an in-house transformation division called Transformation Division that is headed by a gentleman called William Dumia. And so all the transformation issues now, we are still going with the Soaring Eagle and the various initiatives that I highlighted, Mr. Chairman, but those issues are being, Mr. Chairman, now handled internally. We have internal capacity, we have people within the bank who are driving this. And so that will continue. Like we have said, we have started well first quarter. If we were able to have the 4.9 billion in the first quarter, we expect it to only get better, and we pray that the peace, we thank God for the prevailing peace in this nation. We thank God that the economy is starting to pick up. I want to believe, Mr. Chairman, when the interest rate caps are removed by the government, and we pray that the government and our honorable members of parliament are able to deal with the issues of interest rate caps. I think we will create an environment for SMEs to be able to go to banks and be able to get the needed credit that they need, because they are the engine of this economy, and that is really needed. And shareholders, you are also leaders. You are out there. You have your members of parliament. We need interest rate caps possibly removed. And please, out of this, I have a personal plea to each and every one of you. Please go and interact with your honorable member of parliament and let them know that SMEs, unless they get credit, unless they get money, unless they get loans from banks to be able to do the business they're doing, then our economy will not grow. And it is critical that we get interest rate caps removed. However, yes, it's been also agreed, and banks, we've been talking as banks, but we have also challenged ourselves as banks to be responsible lenders. so that we don't have instances of lenders who are charging exorbitant interest. Mr. Chairman, I can comfortably say here that before interest rate caps came, the average lending rate by core bank was 17. I repeat that. Even before interest rates came, the average lending rate by core bank was 17%. And so, Mr. Chairman, we were still a responsible lender. But I know there were people who were charging 24, 25, 26, under instances 30. And I know there has been that concern in the context of as and when the rates are removed, how that will play. But I know the industry, as banks, we are meeting, Mr. Chairman, and we are talking and asking ourselves, how do we, even as banks then, take care of any of us who may not want to responsibly deal with the issue of the interest rate caps as and when they are removed. Dr. Ali, my brother, thank you. I appreciate your very, very good feedback. South Sudan. Now, we thank God for a couple of things. That when we went to South Sudan, we had a choice of either going as a successful Kenyan bank, going to another economy. But when, in the wisdom of the board, when we sat, we decided to go to South Sudan as a South Sudanese bank. How did that happen? We did not go to South Sudan as Cooperative Bank of Kenya in South Sudan. But we went to South Sudan and we had various delegations, then led by Honorable Joe Nyaga, who was the Minister for Cooperatives, and I was with him. And we met the President Salva Kiir, a number of times. And eventually we convinced the government of South Sudan we get into a joint venture. And so, Cooperative Bank of South Sudan is 51% owned by Cooperative Bank, you here this morning, but it is 49% owned by actually the government of South Sudan. And that 49% owned by the government of South Sudan, under the terms of the joint venture, was to be transferred to cooperative societies in South Sudan within a period of 4 years. Such that the vision that the board has was that within 4 years, we would have a bank in South Sudan, 51% owned by us here in Kenya, Cooperative Bank of Kenya, and 49% owned by the cooperative movement of South Sudan. That was critical. Why was it critical? Because we wanted to be part of building a cooperative movement in South Sudan. We wanted to be part of an initiative, and we are doing it, of helping them to form cooperatives, to form circles that are able to propagate the economy. We didn't want to go to South Sudan to only make money, but we wanted to go to that economy and help those people because they are our brothers and their sisters, and it's a very big economy. What am I saying, Dr. Ali? I'm saying that really helped us because the business we have in South Sudan is actually co-owned with the government. And the directors you see on the board, actually, the three directors, one is appointed by the president, the chairman. The other one is Professor. Professor is the PS of finance in South Sudan. And the other one is the PS in charge of cooperatives in South Sudan. And so what am I saying? I'm saying the key thing that is the elephant in the room for South Sudan. What's the major issue they need to deal with? And the major issue they need to deal with is peace. That's why let's not take for granted, Chairman, the peace we have in this nation. South Sudan has every known mineral. It has oil, it has diamond, it has gold, it has rainforest. South Sudan, Juba, those who have been to Juba, when I went to Juba the first time, Mr. Chairman, what shocked me is that Juba is right on River Nile. There is rainforest every day, it rains every day. But the shocker is, despite it being on River Nile, despite the water and the rivers and the water being there, even vegetables come from outside. Vegetables come from Uganda, vegetables come from Kenya. Why? Because peace has not even allowed them to start farming in that nation. And so what am I saying? We here, because I know you are Kenyans who play, please pray for peace in South Sudan. Remember them. Take a minute when you are remembering them, and when you are remembering our dear nation Kenya, remember South Sudan. Because when they have peace, Mr. Chairman, it may not be during our time, but it will come to pass. I'm convinced that South Sudan, Core Bank of South Sudan, will one day be a bigger bank than Core Bank of Kenya. That will come to pass. It may not be during our time, but knowing the economy of South Sudan, knowing the massive resources in that nation, I know it will come to pass. So, Dr. Ali, like you have said, we are happy that we had a profit for the first quarter. Let's see how this goes. Again, when you're dealing with issues of peace, I can only pray and hope that the leaders get to agree. I know the Kenyan, our government, His Excellency the President, and the leadership of our nation is very concerned on things in South Sudan, and I know there are a lot of things behind the scenes happening to make sure that there is peace in that land. So are we out of the woods? Yes and no. Yes, as at now, we are happy with the profit we've made for the first quarter, but can I say for sure how it will be next month? No, to be honest, no. Because we have had instances in 2016 when we had to evacuate our staff. Remember, we had to land all over and look for a plane, and our human resources, we had to look for a private charter to land to South Sudan and bring our Sudan children that were there. You can imagine, I'm here in Nairobi and I'm having Kenyans calling me and telling me, Bwana Muriuki, my son, my daughter is in South Sudan. Where are they? Have you brought them back? And it was a very stressful time. But there is peace today. South Sudan is very huge. Let me also say this. South Sudan is the size of Kenya, Uganda, Rwanda, Burundi. And so even at times when you hear there is a bit of skirmishes, it's like you're in Juba and the skirmishes are 200 kilometers away. And so when you're in Juba, you actually don't feel that animosity. But let's pray for South Sudan. And so there was a transition last year. Our long-serving MD of South Sudan, Mr. Zachary Chienda, who had served this bank for over 37 years and had a long checkered career, retired. And we have our young Elijah Wamarwa, who was his deputy, has now been appointed the CEO for South Sudan. And he's a young man, barely 40 years, and we know that God guiding him and his team there, they'll be able to do a great job in the years ahead. Dr. you asked about FSR 9. It's a very technical issue, but let me try and attempt it. But feel free to contact me or can arrange a technical presentation with my finance people. But let me tell you what is different. Previously, under IAS 39, a bank was asked to look at your loans, and based on their cash flows alone and how they are being serviced, make a loan provision based on that alone, in terms of how they're being serviced. FSR 9 has brought a bigger quantum of how to check that risk. It is actually requiring you, even if the loan is being serviced, is there a risk in the future on that sector? So the loan can be, even if it's being serviced, if you look at the future, 2-3 years to come, do you see a problem in that sector? And it requires you to make a loan loss provision for even a loan that is performing today, but into the future, that sector could get into challenges. Good news, and what I want to update you, is that we had a thorough audit of FSR 9, because this was going to be effective from 1st of January 2018. And I want to confirm to you, I think it's good to hear this, that the 4.9 billion profit we have reported in the first quarter is after making all the necessary adjustments and loan loss provisions in our balance sheet. I think you can clap for yourselves. So, Chairman, we have done FSR 9 audit. In fact, we used our auditors, Ernst & Young, but we also brought, just for a second opinion, we brought another firm to also consult with them so that they're able to compare notes, and we brought PricewaterhouseCoopers, who are given a specific mandate by the board to do an FSR 9 audit. That was finalized, and by the time we brought the first quarter numbers of 4.9 billion, that audit is already complete. Dr. you raised issues about board compensation. I think it's very good that it's the AG who amended the act, Attorney General Gedi Mugai before he left, that institutions get to disclose more about directors' compensation, about CEOs' compensation, management compensation. Why? Because you need to, as shareholders, to see that you are getting value from your directors. You want to see that there is value that you are getting. You're able to compare. You're able to say, like, when you're happy with CoBank, like you are today in terms of the performance, then you're able to, if you come here next year and you find the institution is not doing well, then you're able to ask your directors, how come your expenses are going up but our performance is going down? It's a very good. And this is the initial year. It started from this year. Institutions have all declared. Let me tell you what was the difference. The difference was when the institutions held the AGM. Because this disclosure, we all did it. I can confirm to you that we all wrote to the CMA, we wrote to NSC and Central Bank of Kenya, I think before 31st of March, the requirement is we make those disclosures for the last year as at 31st of March. And we all did those disclosures. And I can confirm to you we did. That on 30th, before 31st of March this year, we did the respective returns that we needed to do to CMA, Capital Markets Authority, to Nairobi Stock Exchange, and to the Central Bank of Kenya. As to what the media wants to light, what it doesn't want to light, that is not for me, if you get what I mean. It's an issue of then what they want to light. But then the other issue is when the institutions held their AGMs like now today. Ours is here now, it's public information, there it is. And it's all disclosed there in terms of the salaries, in terms of the bonuses that have been paid. But all I want to say is the board has implemented a performance-based reward structure. And the salary increase and the salary promotion for every member of staff. Well, number one, let me say this. Bonus in Co-Bank is applicable to everybody, including unionizable staff. Even the unionizable staff, though under their bargaining agreement, they are not entitled to have bonus, we pay them bonus in Co-Bank because we believe they are also contributing to the performance of the bank. At the end of the year, based on your appraisal and based on the target that the board has given you, the board is able then to review the bonus and the salary increase for all staff across the bank. And like you noted, Dr. Ali, that information is there on page 100 of the financials, well disclosed, and it's there. And so, as you come next year, I think you'll be wanting to ask you'll be asking your directors, this is where you are last year, where are you now, and how are we going? But we thank God for a good performance. We thank God for a board that has done so well. Mr. Chairman, I commend this board. And like the earlier speakers, the shareholder said, this is a bank that was in a 2.3 billion loss one time, a bank that was crossing. And for us to have been able to grow from last loss-making bank to one of the largest banks in the region, I think we can only commend you, Chairman, and the board, and our shareholders, I think, for that great work. Gender balance, Mr. Chairman, I think is varied. Dr. Ali, thank you. I think it's varied. We have two directors on the board. Of our lady directors. Madam Simani will also be asking the need of our mandate. We have Madam Scholastica Odhiambo on our board. We also have Madam Commissioner, there are actually three, my apologies. Mrs. Mary Mungai, our Commissioner of Cooperatives, who had traveled and now she was joining us shortly. She's here? Oh, sorry, Madam Commissioner, you're here? Yes. Yes, Madam Commissioner, we had not seen her. Mrs. Mary Mungai, our Commissioner of Cooperatives, let's appreciate her. She provides excellent leadership to the cooperative movement. So, Dr. Ali, we have three lady directors on the board. We have, yes, the ladies on the directors. But as far as the management is concerned, by the way, when you go back to down to our senior management, to the chief managers, actually we have more ladies. At that level, we have even more ladies within the bank. And I think, but the challenge is varied, my brother, that we continue to see how we can bring more of our lady colleagues on our board. Cop House, my brother, you raised a pertinent question, and I'm happy Patrick Donye is here. Patrick Donye, that issue has been raised severally. So Patrick is a MD of Kingdom Securities. Patrick, you have heard it from a shareholder. It was raised last year again about the services of the agency arrangements between you and in terms of the people going to Kingdom Securities. If it's not working, please let the customers come up to fourth floor. I think that's what I would suggest. If Cop House is not able to serve your customers at the branch, we better have those customers where? At fifth floor, where Kingdom Securities is. Because we were trying to see whether the branch network can serve those customers. From next week, from Monday, let's work out the modalities, but Donye, from tomorrow, from Monday, let your customers come to fifth floor. Do not send them to Cop House. They are costing us that inconvenience. So my brother, I'm sorry, my apology for the service you didn't get on for Kingdom Securities. And next time, please go to fifth floor. Fifth floor, directly where Donya is with his people. The issue of the books. Let me give a bit of background here, and my apologies, because previously, it is true that the requirement was this book would be posted to all shareholders by mail. That was the legal requirement. Then it was realized that for big institutions like us who have 100,000, we have 100,000 shareholders. If we did 100,000 books and we sent them by mail, it became a logistical nightmare of sending these books. And the Capital Markets Authority, my brother, came up with an amendment in the Act and said, instead of these books being done so many as a cost-cutting initiative, institutions will be required to put this information on their websites. And 21 days to today, this information was also published in the newspapers. We were required, I think we did that on 30th of May, what am I saying? 29th of April and 2nd of May. The law requires us to put it in the newspapers so that you get that information and you start digesting it so that you have any issues. But if you are, and also it's on our website, so that era of time of these books actually being sent is long behind us now, as it was a cost-cutting initiative. But feel free, my brother, to liaise with us. Feel free to go to our website even later, and when you're able to look at that information, even in the future, we are able to work on that. And the young investor, Mr. Kimani, the future is yours, and thank you for your kind words. I really appreciate it. Asante sana.
Thank you. Thank you very much, GMD, for those responses. I think now we have two issues there about the accounts which were presented, and I propose that we adopt the audited accounts, auditors, and directors' reports. May I have a seconder, please?
I second, Mr. Chairman. I second.
Let's get the name.
Oh, Chami.
Eh?
Chami.
Oh, Mr. Chami, thank you very much. May I have, by a show of hands, those in favor? Motion carried. Thank you. The next item in our agenda, the directors, that is number 8, the directors take into consideration the performance of the bank, have proposed the payment of a first and final dividend of 80 cents per ordinary share to be paid to the shareholders in the register of members of the bank as at the close of business on 30th May 2018. The dividend, if you approve it, will be paid on or about 30th June 2018. I propose the passing of the resolution that the bank declares a dividend of 80 cents per share. May I have a seconder, please?
I second. My name's Grace Ngambi, a shareholder.
Thank you very much. May I see by a show of hands those in favor? Motion carried. Thank you very much. On item numbers, the election of directors, I will call upon our group managing director and CEO to brief the meeting on the rotation and election of directors and handle this agenda item. Our managing director.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, under Article 100 of the Company's Articles of Association, 1/3 of the directors are eligible to retire by rotation. And those retiring in every year are those who have been longest in office since the last elections or appointment, but as between persons who became directors on the same day, those to retire shall, unless they otherwise agree among themselves, be determined by lot. Corp Holding Cooperative Society, which nominates to the board of the company 7 directors, has one of its directors retiring by rotation. The director is Mr. Julius Sitinei. Mr. Julius Sitinei, being eligible, has offered himself for re-election in accordance with Article 100 of the Company's Articles of Association. Number 2, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Patrick Gidendu and Geoffrey K. Buria, being directors appointed under Article 104 of the Company's Articles, to replace Mr. Stanley Mushir and Mr. Julius Riongo, who retired as directors of Corp Holding Cooperative Society Limited, now offer themselves formally for elections as directors in the bank. They have hence been nominated by Corp Holding Cooperative Society Limited. I confirm, Mr. Chairman, that Corp Holding Cooperative Society Limited has already nominated all the 3 above directors for election by the shareholders. As explained, earlier, in accordance with Article 100 of the Companies Article of the Association, you, Mr. Chairman, Mr. John Morogo, Mr. Lawrence Karisa, and Madam Rosemani, the three being independent directors on the board, are also due for retirement by rotation and being eligible offer themselves for election. Mr. Chairman, your board and Isava Davre recommended the three, Mr. Chairman, for re-election, considering the very good performance of the bank. Mr. Chairman, Section 132 of the Companies Act 2015 provides that a public company shall ensure that at a general meeting of the company, a motion for the appointment of two or more persons as directors of the company by a single resolution is moved only if a resolution that it shall be so moved has first been agreed to by the meeting without any vote being cast against it. What am I saying, Mr. Chairman? Instead of us going through one director one by one, we are actually allowed to have two or three together, but you need as shareholders to have agreed that we can do that. Instead of me leading every director, we can lead, two, three together. And so, pursuant to Section 132 of the Companies Act, I propose that we do that. We are able to have the directors from Corp Holding and the others coming together. So may I have a seconder for that motion? Yes, madam.
My name is Catherine, and I second the motion.
Thank you very much. May I see by a show of hands those who are in favor? In the foregoing now that you have agreed, we can do them together and then propose, Mr. Chairman, in the foregoing, I propose the passing of a resolution for election and confirmation of Mr. Julius Sitinei, Mr. Patrick Igedendu, and Mr. Geoffrey K. Buria as directors of the bank, duly nominated by Corp Holding Cooperative Societies under Article 104A of the bank's Article of Associations. May I have a seconder for that motion? Yes. Yes, there.
I'm Kemondo Karaoke, a shareholder. I second.
Thank you, shareholder. May I see by a show of hands that we're in agreement to that motion? Thank you very much. Mr. Chairman, I also pass a second resolution. I propose the passing also of a resolution for the re-election of you, Mr. Chairman, as a director, Mr. John Morogo, Mr. Lawrence Karisa, and Madam Rosemani as directors of the bank under Article 100 of the bank's Articles of Association. May I have a seconder for that motion?
I second. My name is Simon Muchok Kego. I second.
Thank you, shareholder. Thank you. May I see by a show of hands those in favor? We are okay. Thank you very much. And congratulations let's appreciate the directors on the renewed mandate for that mandate by the general meeting to continue the good work that you are doing. Also, in accordance with the provisions of Section 769 of the Companies Act, the directors that are specifically on the audit subcommittee of the board require that they are noted and approved by the AGM. So the AGM notes they have been given that specific mandate. And so I'm saying, Mr. Chairman, the following directors, being members of the board audit committee, be elected to continue to serve as members of the said committee. That's a new requirement of the law, that directors in the audit subcommittee of the board to get specific mandate of the general meeting. And the directors who are there is Mrs. Rosemani, is the chairperson of the audit committee, Mr. Patrick Igedendu, who is the vice chairman of Corp Holding Cooperative Society and a director on the bank, Mr. Lawrence Karisa, an independent director, and Mr. Mwambio Wanyambura, who is the representative of the PS Treasury, because we work very closely with government, you are aware, and the PS Treasury sits on our board, and it's presented by Mr. Wanyambura Mwambia. So I propose, Mr. Chairman, the passing of a resolution for the election and the continuation then of directors Madam Rosemani, Mr. Patrick Igedendu, Mr. Lawrence Karisa, and Mr. Wanyambura Mwambia as members of the board audit committee. May I have a seconder for that motion?
Wagoi Moshegi, I second that.
Thank you, madam.
Shareholder.
Thank you, madam. Let's appreciate those directors who are on the audit board. We can appreciate them. We are all okay with that? Thank you very much. The motion is carried.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. GMD for that. Now we go to the next item of the agenda, which in line with industry practice, the board requires your authority, one, to approve the remuneration of the directors for the year ended that 1st December 2017. Second, to approve to review and fix the remuneration of the directors for the year 2018. I propose that the remuneration of the directors for the year ended that 1st December 2017 be approved and the board be authorized to fix the remuneration of the directors for the year 2018. May I have a seconder for that?
Penina Kingo, I second.
Name, please.
Penina Kingo, I second.
Penina, thank you very much. May I see by a show of hands those in favor? Motion carried. Thank you very much. The next item of the agenda is on the appointment of auditors. Ernst & Young, who were appointed in the year 2017, have indicated their willingness to continue in office, and the board of directors support the request. I propose the passing of a resolution appointing Ernst & Young as our auditors and authorizing the board of directors to fix their remuneration. May I have a seconder, please?
I second.
Name?
Madam Mudan, I am a shareholder. I second.
Thank you for seconding. May I see by a show of hands those in favor? Motion carried. The next item of the agenda is any other business. There being no other business for which due notice has been received, I now declare the meeting officially closed. I now call upon, as our usual practice, for closing prayers, and I request our director, Benedict Simiu, to give us the closing prayer. Director Simiu.
Kindly, let's stand up for a word of prayer. Father, in the name of Jesus, we want to thank you for this particular time. That, Lord, today we gathered here for our Bank AGM. I want to thank you for having enabled each one of us, Father, from our chairman, our GMD, the directors of the bank, the management staff, and even our shareholders to come here today. We thank you for the wonderful session we've had. We want to bless your name for where you've brought us up to this particular time. We thank you for Kingdom Bank, and we thank you for the growth of our bank. We want to bless your name, that even as now we prepare to go back to our respective homes, I want to pray for journey mercies, that you may bless each one of us even as we go back. Father, bless our country, bless this nation, bless our president, and bless the leadership in this country. We worship you because you brought us this far, because of the peace we have in this country, and because of your great hand, which has continued to be with us. We bless you and we worship your name. For in Jesus' name I pray.